Greetings, boys and girls, and welcome to a special edition of Movie Goodness, where we are reviewing Universal Pictures Fast X. Yes, the 10th entry into the Fast and the Furious franchise that just dropped in theaters this past Friday, May the 19th. And this film is directed by Louis Leterrier, who has directed uh, some interesting films in his filmography. He directed uh The Incredible Hulk that starred Edward Norton, which is the second film in the MCU, believe it or not. He has also directed the Transporter films, um the remake of Clash of the Titans, Now You See Me, and I can say that I've enjoyed his films. He's not a filmmaker that I actually like. Oh man, Louis Leterrier film coming out. I gotta go rush and see it. But if it's a film that he has directed, I've enjoyed. And so in this go around, he's directing a returning cast of course, Vin Diesel, um, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, John Cena, Natalie Emmanuel, Jordana Brewster, Scott Eastwood, Alan Richson, Helen Mirren, Brie Larson, Jason Statham, Jason Momoa, and Charlize Theron. Um, I'm gonna give a little spoilers here. So this is the spoiler review, but I'm not gonna go full spoilers. It's really nothing to spoil, but it's they did have a couple of things at the end that I wanted to talk about because it's kind of a strange development in this franchise. But going into the review, what I enjoyed about this film, when you go to a Fast and Furious film, you go for the stunts, you go for the outlandish car chases and the action and all that there, that delivers. If that's what you go to see Fast and the Furious for, Fast X has that. It is very exciting, adrenaline filled action sequences. The film does not disappoint there, as if they were going to change anything with Fast X. But that's that's mainly what you go for in these films. You don't go for the plot. You go for the adventure, and that's what you get. Very exciting. My number one super positive in this film is Jason Momoa. Him as the villain Dante, probably the best villain in the Fast and the Furious franchise. Probably one of the best villains on screen in a while. Not the best. I'm not going that far. He's not Thanos level, but he is a villain that you normally don't see in films anymore. He's not the mustache trailing villain with just one note. He has layers to his character, and this is, for better or worse, probably the best Jason Momoa performance I have seen. I mean, seriously, he brought dimensions to this character that I was not expecting when I went to see this film. I really thought he was going to be one note because, to be fair, all of the villains in the Fast and Furious franchise have been kind of one note, throughout this franchise. But with Dante, it was so much more. He was Jason Momoa played this villain almost to the point where you was cheering for him. He was so exciting to watch. Every scene he was in, it was just like it elevated the movie. To put it plainly, Jason Momoa was in a different film. It's like his performance did not deserve to be in this movie because the movie overall, it's cheesy, it's corny, it's unbelievable, just like all the rest. But he gives a performance that is elevating this movie and actually saves this movie from being hot garbage. You know what I'm saying? Because of his delivery. It is so exciting. It is so exciting. He completely stole this movie. He stole it. This is Jason Momoa's movie, and I, for that reason, I'm excited to see what's next. You know, and this is a weird experience because I was tired of this franchise. I am tired of it, but I want to see more from him. I think, I want to see more from Jason Momoa, and it did not disappoint. Now, there was one scene with Jason Momoa that I just did not get. It felt like it did not belong in this movie. It didn't belong in any movie, but it was just so out of left field and just ridiculous beyond ridiculous. And it was the scene. Once again, I'm getting into a couple of spoilers, so you've been warned. Because this doesn't determine anything in the movie, the outcome or anything. But is a scene in here where Jason Momoa he has dead bodies. He's talking to these dead bodies like they're his buddies. It was just out of left field. Like, what is going on right now? What is happening? But it was entertaining. He made it entertaining, and I guess it was to add to his insanity because he was an insane person. Yet he was a genius, but he was an insane person, and he's sitting there just with these dead bodies. He has uh tape their eyelids open so they can be looking at him and stuff. Like, what is going on? What is happening right now? But it was just out of left field and did not expect it in this movie. uh I liked the chemistry between Michelle Rodriguez and Charlize Theron. That was unexpected duel in this film. I, I I can see them doing like a Hobbs and Shaw spinoff, with the two of them. I think that would be an exciting little, you know, deviation in a way, just like Hobbs and Shaw. Hobbs and Shaw wasn't the greatest of movies by no stretch of the imagination, but I thought it was a very exciting action film to be quote unquote a part of the Fast and Furious franchise. And I can see these two, Charlize Theron, an Academy Award winning actress. Obviously she can handle action. If you've seen Atomic Blonde and The Old Guard, she has turned herself into a formidable action star in Hollywood. And so to see her team up with Michelle Rodriguez, I think would be a awesome idea. There's no plans for this. I'm just spitballing here. I would like to see that, but it would be cool to see that. But besides that, the two of them had an awesome little fight scene in the middle of the movie or close to the end of the film. It was a cool little scene. And we have the addition of Brie Larson, who plays the daughter of Mr. Nobody. Mr. Nobody, who was played by Kurt Russell in previous installments. She plays his daughter. Brie Larson, once again, an Academy Award winning actress, was wooden. I did not like her performance in this film. But to be fair to her, she really didn't have nothing to do. You know what I'm saying? It really wasn't a meaty role. The writing overall in this film was just horrible. So it, I don't blame her. I really don't. It was just a wooden performance that uh, I guess fit the story, but the story was ridiculous, and she did the best she could. And unfortunately, her best wasn't good enough for me. Also in this film, we have Alan Richson, who you may have seen in Reacher, the Prime Video series that's based on the books, Jack Reacher. And I like Alan Richson. I really do. Once again, in this film, one note. He was the one note villain. He was the one that uh, you knew what he was all about as soon as he got on screen. You knew exactly. So the little twist uh, that he has with his character, you saw it coming immediately. At least I did. and it did. It was like, okay, let's just get to it. You know, throughout the film, all the scenes he was in, I was like, let's just get to it. You know, but uh, as far as his performance, it was an all right performance. He did what he was supposed to do. You know, it was nothing more, nothing less. It was just he was there for a reason, and he did it. That boom, that's that. So that was it for his character. Moving on to John Cena in this film. John Cena reprises his role from the previous film where he was the villain as Jacob Toretto, the brother of Dom, who was played by Vin Diesel. They play brothers, which is still mind-boggling to me how that was pulled off in casting, but whatever. This go around, he is a part of the team, and he is tasked with protecting Dom's son, I'm sorry, which is his nephew, who is played by Leo Perry. And I like the chemistry between between John Cena and his kid, which isn't a surprise. If you know anything about John Cena is uh, uh, very active with the Make a Wish Foundation, so he always works with kids, and he just has a natural connection with kids, and it comes off in his movie, and it was really fun to watch the back and forth between John Cena and this his nephew, and you know, once again, is an out of left field type thing. This film has about five different stories going on, but they managed to make it work in their mind. So it is what it is. Um Jason Statham, he returns as Hobbs or Shaw. Which one was he? He's Shaw. And yeah, he was there. That's all I can say. He was there. Uh, Once again, another villain from another film in this franchise who is now a good guy, and it is what it is. It just gets to the point when you're tired of seeing that. You're tired of seeing past installments kind of being retconned in a way because the villains in those films turn out to be good guys later on, or people who die in previous installments pop back up later on. Case in point, Michelle Rodriguez. I think she died in the third film, and she popped back up in the maybe the sixth or seventh film. I forgot which one, but she's back. You know, what's his name? Han. Han died in the what third or fourth film, and he came back in the last film. And, you know, he came back in part nine, even because he quote unquote faked his death, but he was murdered by Shaw, played by Jason Statham. You know, but all is forgiven. You know, it is what it is. And then in this film, once again, spoiler warning, Gazelle returns. And if you don't remember who Gazelle is, that is Gal Gadot. Yes, Wonder Woman herself. She returned. She died in the fifth film. I forgot which one. Fifth, fifth or sixth film. I don't know. There's so many of them. And she returned in this film. And we got to return. And this is what I wanted to talk on because it shocked me beyond belief. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, in the mid-credit scene, he returned as Hobbs. Now, to give you a little backstory in case you don't know, he left the franchise, talking about Dwayne Johnson, because him and Vin Diesel, you know, you have two alpha males, and they both had their egos and their machismo and wanted to be in charge of the franchise, which technically this is Vin Diesel's franchise. And so for Dwayne The Rock Johnson to come in and kind of want to take over, yeah, you're gonna feel some type of way. So I get all that. And it got to the point where he left the franchise, he being Dwayne the Rock Johnson. That's how Hobbs and Shaw came about. And Hobbs and Shaw didn't, set the world on fire with the box office. It was a hit. It did good, and it was a decent movie. I enjoyed Hobbs and Shaw, but it didn't just take the world by storm, which was the plan to kind of outdo the Fast and the Furious franchise as a whole. But regardless, but the thing that gets me is, I mean, this was a bitter feud here. To me, Dwayne the Rock Johnson had did interviews and went on Twitter and all this other stuff about the unprofessionalism of Vin Diesel and how he doesn't want to work with him and all this here. It was bitter. I mean, it was pretty bad. They were going back and forth, and I guess money heals all wounds. he's back in the franchise, and it is set up to be he'll be in the next film. So we shall see how that plays out. But as this film goes, I had a good time with it. It was entertaining. I think it is comparable to the rest of the films. It's nothing new here. It's the same old with the Fast and the Furious. Uh it was the two surprise cameos being Gal Gadot and Dwayne Johnson were kind of wasted. You know, they did it was wasted. They were just thrown in and didn't help the movie or the plot at all. It was just there to be there, and it did nothing for me. I honestly feel that the next one should be the last one. Honestly, this one should be the last, but it's set up for another one. Let's get it over with. This franchise has jumped the shark. It has really jumped the shark with me. Uh, it's still hope though. It actually can get better. This can be if the next film is truly gonna be the send off. Actually, Vin Diesel said he has a trilogy in mind, which is wild to me. Which means two more films. Uh, I think it should ended with one. But you can redeem this with some good writers. Get a good writer in here to actually tell a good story, to really end this on a high note, because this ain't it. This film here, this X Fast X was not well written. It was just cheesy and bland in the scenes that didn't attain action. If there was no action involved, it was boring. And you sitting there waiting for the action to kick up. And honestly, like I said to start off this review, that's the only reason you go see a Fast and the Furious film is for the action. And this movie was 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and it was just way too long. Um, Jason Momoa wasn't in it enough, to be honest with you. He wasn't in it enough, and I think that would have saved it. But overall, it was bland. And speaking of the action, I said I hate to contradict myself, but some of the action was just completely ridiculous, and I know that's an oxymoron when we talking about when we talking about Fast and the Furious, but it was a scene. It's I know, this was the only one where I was sat there like Jesus. I put my head in my hand and I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. There was a scene when they were on a bridge and there was a shootout, and Vin Diesel was behind this car. It was flipped on its side, and Vin Diesel, with one arm, flipped it back on his wheels. Just picked it. He picked it up with one arm. I couldn't. I couldn't do it. I almost checked out. Honest to God, I was almost done. It was that ridiculous. I know what this franchise is. God knows I know what it is. And they know what it is. But no. No. It's just too silly. It's really too silly. And you want me to suspend disbelief. Yeah. Some things I just can't forgive. And that was one of them. But anywho's, Fast X, available now in theaters, gets a letter grade of a C minus. Like I said, what saves it from failing territory is Jason Momoa's performance. The action sequences are exciting and well shot. And that's what saves the movie for me. Other than that, it really was just really, really bland. So we shall see how this epic franchise ends next year or whenever they're gonna release, I guess, Fast X1 or whatever. I don't know how this is gonna go, but anyways, I would like to know how you feel about Fast X. Have you seen it? Did you enjoy it? Do you think this is one of the best in the franchise? I asked myself, what is my favorite Fast and the Furious film? And I can't come up with it. Honestly, I'm so detached from this franchise. It's like blurred together. I know Fast 5, and I did enjoy Fast 5, and the only reason I know that's so in depth is because it plays a major part in Fast X. So that's the only reason I know that one definitively. All the rest of them blur together. So I don't have a favorite. I guess Fast 5. Or the original. I did enjoy the original. I don't know how we get to this point with this franchise, but it is what it is. But anywho, I'd like to know, what is your favorite? Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You could also look me up on Twitter at the KB Radio Network, and on other social media platforms, just look up the KB Radio Network. Also, look me up on YouTube, the KB Radio Network. Subscribe to the channel, like this video. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever it is you're currently listening to movie goodness on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Fast X or Fast 10 or the Fast and the Furious going crazy. Well, I don't know what else you could call it. Anywho, thank you for joining me. I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love one another, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.